Hello guys, welcome back again to my channel Dami Dimension. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a fully lined pencil skirt or a blazer skirt or a suit skirt, whatever you want to call this one. Is going to be neatly finished both inside and outside. So if you're interested in seeing this, then definitely keep on watching. So I'm going to be making use of a pattern from my pencil skirt tutorial. I'll post a link to that video in the description box or at the end of this video, so make sure you check that out. Get started. I'm folding my fabric into two, then I'm placing my front pattern on top of it, making sure I match the center front to the fold of the fabric, just like this. And then you can just go ahead and cut out this pattern straight as it is, but for me I want my skirt to be shorter than what I have on this pattern, so I'm just going to be making it shorter and by determining the length that I want. So I want the length of this skirt to be 16 inches. All right, and then I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra to that for kind of like hemming allowance, but I will show you how to use that later. So in total I have 17 inches. So I'm marking that, and I will transfer that same 17 inches on this side just so I could square the line. This is my waistline. The straight one is the waistline. So from that straight line, I'm taking 17 inches as well. So I'm going to be adding my seam allowance along the side seam because this pattern does not have any seam allowance at all. I'm also going to add seam allowance at the waistline, and then I'm cutting. As you can see, I'm leaving ½ inch seam allowance at the waistline. I already have 1 inch on my hemline, and at the side as well I'm adding ½ inch seam allowance. You can add more if you want. Before I take out my pattern, I'm marking my dart. I also notch the center point and also separated the side seam allowance. So this is what my front pattern looks like once I was done cutting it out. So the next thing, I'm cutting my back, and as well I folded my fabric into two and I placed my pattern on top of it as well. Then I'm also going to go ahead and do the same thing, cutting my waistline first, making sure I have ½ inch seam allowance left, and then I'm going to bring in my front pattern so I can measure out the length so I can have equal length, and I'm going to match it in a way that the side seam matches with the side seam of the back pattern, just like so that at the end everything is going to be perfect. So I'm matching the waistline all the way up because I already have waistline allowance on my front, so just match it up that way, and then I'm now taking the length. All right, take that out, and then I'm cutting from that side. On the side as well, I'm leaving the same ½ inch seam allowance just like I did for the front panel. So again, I'm marking my dart, and I'm also separating the zipper allowance. Just kind of transfer all those points just for reference purpose. I need them, of course, later on. And then I'm separating my back from the center back so I can insert the zip and all that good stuff. So I'm setting this aside now. Then I'm going to be cutting out my band from the rest of the fabric. So again, I'm folding my fabric into two. Then I'm placing my front panel on top of that, and I'm going to be folding in the dart because the band is not going to have that, obviously. So I'm placing the pattern on the fabric in a way that I have a lot of room at the top right here to work with. Right, and then make sure you match the center front to the fold of the fabric like so. Once you're happy with the way you place it, go ahead and pin it down, and we are going to be tracing out the waistline. Guys, I apologize, the lighting here is horrible. Everything is just so washed out. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing though. So I just went ahead and traced out the waistline like so. Oh yes, the lighting is better now. So after tracing out the waistline, go ahead and determine how wide you want your waistband to be. For me, I'm going to be using 2 inches. You can make yours wider or thinner, then use 1.5, depends on you. So then I'm going to take that 2 inches all along like this from my waistline above. I'll take it like so, and then I'll go ahead and connect those points together. So once I was done connecting, the next thing to do is to extend this side seam all the way up to the band. And once that is done, the next thing is to add seam allowance So on the side here, I'm adding ½ inch. Obviously, I'm short of fabric right now, but we can make it work. So that's why I said you should make sure you have enough room you should have enough room at the top when you're placing your fabric. So I'm adding ½ inch seam allowance on this side, and at the top as well, I'm also adding ½ inch seam allowance, and then I will take out my pattern and also add ½ inch seam allowance down here as well. Once that is done, then just go ahead and cut out the band. After cutting that out, I have something that looks like this. As you might have noticed, I notched the middle point just for reference, and as you can see, the waistline on my skirt looks like it's larger, but by the time I hold in the dart, it's going to match up with the band. Alright, so I'm putting this away, and I'm also going to be drafting the back band, almost the same thing but a bit of difference. So first, I'm hiding my dart on the back panel as well, like so. I'll pin that down, and I'm going to be tracing that out. So for the back band, I'm splitting it into two. I'm tracing the first one from I'm going to be splitting it into two. The first one is going to start from this point to the side seam, like so, and the second one we go through the zipper allowance. This one is my zipper allowance right here. All right, so the second one is going to run across from the zipper allowance all the way to the side seam, like so. So basically the reason why I'm splitting it into two is because I want one to be longer than the other so it can overlap. So this 1.5 inch zipper allowance I have here is going to be what I will use as the overlap on the band, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense now, keep on watching. By the time you see what I'm talking about, then it will make sense. All right, so then just go ahead and fold your fabric into two, which I have done already, and I'll place my back pattern on top of it, and I will simply trace out the waistline just like we did to the front panel. All right, so after tracing it out, okay, I am going to be adding my seam allowance of ½ inch. It's going to go in that direction, but first I'm extending this side seam upward again, just like we did to the front. All right, and after extending that, then you can add your seam allowance. I said my back band is going to be splitted into two, right? But I'm drafting the two of them together at once right now so it can be fast. So adding my ½ inch seam allowance on this side, then I'm placing the mark on my zipper allowance, like so. Like I said, this zipper allowance on the band is going to serve as the band extension, as a band overlap. Okay, so then I'm determining the length. Again, I'm using 2 inches just like I used for the front band, and then I will take that 2 inches all along like so and connect the point, and then I'm going to be adding my ½ inch seam allowance at the top and also at the bottom of the band. So then I'm cutting out this pattern. All right, so this is the zipper allowance, and from this point to this side is from my center back to one side of the back panel. So just like this, as you can see. All right, so I'm going to be transferring this same 1.5 inch above here so I can connect and finish up that half of the back band. Okay, so I'm connecting those points together. So that's half of my back band, and I'm adding ½ inch seam allowance to that line as well. Okay, like I said, this back band is going to be separated into two, so I need seam allowance to go around each of the panels. Okay, so then I will cut that, and so you can see the second one is longer, and the extension is going to be the overlap, just like that. All right, and that's where you're going to be inserting the hook and eye. You get the gist. So now you should go ahead and duplicate these two pieces. You should also duplicate your front band. What I mean is you should cut out another band that looks exactly like these three pieces using your main fabric, or you can use your lining fabric as well. These new pieces are going to be serving as your facing. All right, so as you can see, I went ahead and cut out lining for my front and back panel using the main fabric of the front and back panel. Of course, as you can see, they are looking exactly the same way. The only difference here is that I'm going to be making the lining 1 inch shorter than the main fabric at the hemline. All right, so next I went ahead and transfer my dart on all the panels, and I'm going to start stitching. So I'm starting by sewing in the dart on all the four panels, on every single panel, the lining, the main fabric, on every single panel I will sew in my dart. So now the dart has been sewn. As you can see, it looks like this, and the next thing I'm going to be doing is to insert my invisible zipper. I have a video already on how to insert invisible zipper, so if you haven't seen that, please go and watch it. I'm not going to be repeating that in this video, so the video will not be too long. I will post the link to that video in the description box or at the end of the video. Okay, so but before you insert the zipper, you should go ahead and join your two back panels together from the hemline upward. All right, starting from your hemline, you will sew the two back panels upward like this and stop a little bit into your zipper like so. So once you're done doing that stitch, then you should insert your invisible zipper. So right now you can see I have done my invisible zipper. It's so clean. If you haven't seen that video, guys, you need to go and watch it, and so you can achieve clean invisible zipper installation like this. So this is what mine looks like, and on the wrong side it looks something like this. I went ahead and flat iron my seams. So let me just show you that stitch I was talking about. I don't know if you can see it, but I made that stitch first and stopped somewhere here before I went ahead and insert my zipper. And I also did that same stitch on my lining. As you can see, this is what it looks like. So then we are going to be combining this lining together with the main fabric now. And in order to do that, I'm bringing in my main fabric wrong side facing up, and I'm going to be placing my lining fabric wrong side facing the wrong side of the main fabric like so. And then I'll open it up this way. I will grab this zipper allowance on the lining, and I'm going to pick it together with the zipper allowance on the main fabric, and I'm going to be stitching both of them together, but I'll make sure that my stitch is as close as possible to the zipper teeth so that it can come out really nice. So I'll place my stitch really close using the stitch line that I have here as guide. It's going to be really close to that zipper, and once I'm done doing that and I flip it over, it will look something like this. Then I will repeat the same thing to the other side right here as well. So once I was done doing that, this is what I have, and you can see how clean it's looking at this point. So the next thing you want to do now is to place your main fabric front onto the table, right side facing up. Then you are going to place this one that you just joined together right side facing it like so. So I'm just opening up to show you what I did. Front right side facing up, then you place the back that you already put the lining on right side facing it like so. All right, so then you're going to open up that lining and stitch the two main fabrics together like so, and you repeat the same thing to the other side. And once that is done, this is what I have. The two main fabrics front and back has now been joined together on their sides. So now you want to open up the lining on top of it like so, and also bring in the front lining, placing it right side facing the back lining like so. And then you're going to match both of them together on the side and stitch them by your seam allowance, only the lining this time around. Once that was done, this is what I have, and now I'm going to be turning it to the right side from here like so. And now we have a guest in the building. All right, so once I was done turning it, I have something that looks like this at this point. On the back side, it looks like this. And then now the next thing to do is to join along the hemline. And this is how I'm going to be doing that. So you want to first preview what you want to achieve. Okay, so what I mean is I'm going to mimic what I want to achieve first, so then I know how I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. So I'm folding it in, I'm folding my hemline in this way so I can see what I want to achieve, and then I'm going to be going in from my waistline, so I can pick those two raw edges together and then I can stitch them. Basically, that's what I did. So then just go ahead and pick it together like so, and then start to pin all along, and then you are going to stitch. So as you can see, I'm matching those raw edges together and pinning them all along. So once I was done doing the front part, I turned it to the right side to see how it looked, and then I flipped it to the back and also repeat the same thing to the back as well. So once I was done pinning all of them together, it looks something like this. Then I will take that to my sewing machine to stitch. So once that stitch is done, I have something that looks like this, and now it's time to flip it back to the right side. All right, so once you're done flipping, you can match your waistline together and shake the skirt together so that the the hemline can fall in place. So then you'll be able to see the effects of making your lining a bit shorter than the main fabric. So after giving that a good press, is what I have. So next is time to work on the waistline. So I'm putting this away for now and I'm working on my band. So here is my band. This is the front main fabric and facing, the back main fabric and facing, main fabric and facing. So now you want to take away one set. Now I have my main fabrics. I'm placing them together right side facing, and I'm joining along the side like so. By the time I open up, I have something like this, and I'll repeat the same thing to the one I'm using as the facing as well. Put them together right side facing and join along the side. So once I was done doing that, this is what I have for both. And now it's time to join along the part where along the waistline basically, and that's the widest part. So in order to do that, I am placing these two pieces right sides facing each other like so, and I'm going to be joining along this side like so, along this side, and down here like this. Once that is done, this is what I have. And the next thing to do, oh, I need to show you also that I iron fusible interfacing on one of the sides. So you should iron the interfacing on the side where you have your main fabric. That's the part where you want to show outside in case you're using lining as the facing. All right, so now I notched all the corners, and I notched all the curved area and chopped off the corner, and I'm turning it to the right side. So after flipping it to the right side, go ahead and give it a good press, and we are going to be attaching it to our skirt now. I'm making sure that the one that I ironed fusible interfacing on falls at the front, and I'm starting from the middle, matching my notches together and pinning that. You should pin together with your lining, but right now I wasn't pinning together with my lining at first. That was a mistake, but I went back to correct that. So watch and see what I was talking about. So you can see now that I'm trying to add my lining to the pin. All right, so just go ahead and do that. Work your way to the center back, and then go back to the middle where you started from, and also pin it all around, working your way to the other side, to the center back on the other side, just like that. And once you're done pinning, then you should take that to your sewing machine and you should stitch it down by 1/2 inch. And once I was done stitching, this is what I have, and I started stitching from this part where I don't have the extension of the band. And on this other side, you can see that is where I stopped my stitching, and I make sure I didn't get to the very end before I stopped. So the reason why is I need to finish up the band before I continue the rest of the stitch. In order to do that, I'm going to flip this to the wrong side, and then I'm going to put them together like this and stitch here up to about this point together. So I'm stitching from here down to where this edge stops right here. All right, I'm going to place a mark right there so I can know where to stop stitching when I get to my sewing machine. And once I was done doing that stitch, this is what I have. Then I'm going to chop off the corner so it can come out sharp, and then I'm going to flip it back to the right side so I can continue joining the band to the waistline of the skirt. So I will turn it back this way, and then I'll continue stitching, continue from where I stopped and all the way to here. So once that is done, this is what I have. And the next thing to do, which is like the final thing, is to finish up this waistband right here. And what you want to do is to fold half of an inch. But before you fold that half of an inch, make sure this seam allowance is out of the way. So you have to make sure that seam allowance goes up, and then you will fold this over and fold in half of an inch, just like that, and go ahead and pin this all the way through the entire band. And once that is done, then I did a stitch in the ditch. So this is my preference. If you want, you can make a top stitch, but I love to do a stitch in the ditch, and that's the stitch that you place right at the point where your band meets with the skirt. So it's going to be somewhere there hidden. If you've been watching my channel, you know I do this a lot, and that's because it just gives the best finish look. So once I was done doing my stitch in the ditch, this is what the finished result of the skirt looks like. As you can see, you can't see that stitch, and that's what I really love about it. So this is the finished result of the skirt, you guys. You can see how gorgeous, clean, and near perfect it looks. Nothing is perfect, right? But this skirt is nearly perfect. Right, so that's it for me for today, you guys. If you enjoyed this video, remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel in case you haven't done so already, so you don't miss out on interesting videos like this on the channel. I remain your girl, Dami. I hope I see you again in my next one. Thank you for sticking with me. I love you guys. Have a nice day and keep staying safe.